So, what exactly is ecology? Well, ecology is defined as the scientific study of how organisms interact with their environment, which includes abiotic and biotic factors within the environment. But what does this mean and what does this look like exactly? Well, a popular example of ecology and ecological study is the food webs. Food webs show how organisms get their energy from and how they interact with other organisms within the environment.
For example, an animal might be prey to another animal. Meanwhile, in itself, it might be predator toward another animal, showing complex relationships between organisms in any given environment.
However, ecology is way more complex than just simple food webs. So let's dive into a little what exactly makes up ecological study and ecosystems. And the best way to study this and show this in motion is by visiting a nature preserve, one that's very dense in nature and has a wide variety of animals, to get the best results on how the study of ecology works. The nature preserve I chose for this study is called Oakhurst Nature Preserve. Within this video, I will break down the ecological processes and relationships within organisms, biodiversity found within the ecosystem, and in many more studies within the environment. As part of this ecological breakdown of the nature preserve I'm visiting, I will be making a food web along to be visually show the relationships between organisms. All organisms featured will be either encountered and observed through this trip, or been previously encountered / observed by me, or sourced from resources provided by the nature reserve, proving that animals exist within the preserve. So, let us begin. So, for the beginning of this visit, we begin with investigating the coastal region of the lake. While examining the coastal region, we found plenty of fish and bird wildlife. Although we are unable to identify the fish species caught on video, the bird species seems to be a female brown-headed cowbird. She was caught taking a shower to cool off in the hot weather. Soon afterwards, we encountered several mallard ducks out in the water of the lake. Observing them, we found tracks of herons, possibly of gray herons, as I've seen them before in the area. Soon after, we found ants located in a tree nearby the lake. Then we found some cool flowers, which I identified as dame's rockets. And then after that, we encountered a very stubborn frog. I identified it as either an American bullfrog or a green frog. Based on the behavior it showed, I'm leaning more towards bullfrog. However, for the sake of the food web I'm building, and based on the facial structure of the frog, we will say this is a green frog. They look very similar, bullfrogs and green frogs. The main difference is that green frogs are, well, completely green and have more of a sharp facial structure than American bullfrogs do. And well, not long after that, we found a partially stuck fish on a bank. The fish was initially unidentifiable, but seemed large and long. Basing this off the data provided by the fish brain app, and using its general location, my best guess would be either a catfish of sort, either a channel or black bull-headed catfish. However, due to its larger size, I will assume this fish was a channel catfish, as black bull-headed catfish don't grow all that big. Close by that, we found a spider with its web. The spider was unable to be identified, and as we neared the end of the trip, we found hoof marks of deer. Having seen these deer in the area before, I'll be identifying this as white-tailed deer. We noticed the algae growing along the banks of the lake, and we found some small unidentifiable insects that floated across the water, eating the algae. Finally, right before we left, we spotted a small American bullfrog. This is identified as American bullfrog due to its more compact head than a green frog and its brown skin in its back, with a green head. This frog perfectly demonstrated camouflage in action, as it took us 5 minutes to spot this thing. This concluded the trip to Oakhurst. Okay, so finally, what does this all mean? Let's dissect this ecosystem we investigated real quick. So, just basing this off animals we observed or seen proof of during this trip, I've constructed this food web of all the animals' relationship and energy sourcing. As you can see, there's two main outliers, which are the cowbird and the white-tailed deer. It's because the majority of this ecosystem studied / investigated was based around the lake, which cowbirds and deer have little relation to. So I won't be focusing on them in this video. But now let's get to the meat of the food web. So we see a lot of arrows around the area related to the frogs. Arrows point towards the animal gaining the energy. So for example, the arrow that points to the fish, a bluegill, I put in here to represent the identified fish we saw, towards the bullfrog, shows how sometimes bullfrog predate on small fish, gaining its energy. We also see the fish having an arrow pointed at it, showing how it gains energy from eating young tadpoles of bullfrogs. These arrows show how both these animals prey on each other. in different stages of their lives. If we take a step back to look at where the fish and the frog get their other energy sources from, we see they both prey on water bugs. This shows competition between the two species, as both species hunt the same prey. This type of competition between different kinds of species within an ecosystem is called interspecific competition. Now, taking a look at the water bug, we see it gets its fuel from algae, making it a primary consumer. The algae gets its energy from the sun, making it a producer in the ecosystem. This shows a chain of energy, how it trickles down from each animal. The energy found in the sun is the same energy found in the frog, just gone through several bodies and forms to get there. This was an example of how ecosystems and ecology work as a whole. I hope you found this educational and come out with a better understanding of how ecology works. And as a side note, we went out to see some tadpoles a while back. Here's some videos of them. They were pretty cool. They weren't from the same area, it's just cool to see some actual tadpoles.